What's up, guys? I hope you're well. Today we're checking out investigating the weirdest Formula One crash ever. I'm really excited about this one. This image right here, it's just like, holy crap, man. It almost looks like it's Photoshop, but I don't think it is. Let's get into it, shall we?
Look at this image, a crashed Ferrari F1 car and a very lucky driver. I recently came across this and could not figure out how this driver got away without much worse injuries. He literally climbed out of this car and walked away. So I had to find out how this happened. And it got a little bit unusual. So I wanted to share it with you. Let's get into it. To figure this out, I spent hours searching through the internet. So the car was immediately recognizable as a late 90s Ferrari, but there are a few things that stood out. This Tic Tac sponsorship means that the car isn't a 1998 or earlier, and the air intakes on the year 2000 car are very different, making this a Ferrari F399 from the 1999 season. And many of you will know that the drivers from that season were Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine. However, this chap with the white helmet in our crashed car looks nothing like either of them.
Yeah.
He's much taller, and also both of them are very likely to always be wearing their
more grey hair
helmets. Then there is the Marlboro sponsorship. Look at Michael's car. The Marlboro sponsorship is pretty prominent. Then look at the crash car. That section says Kroijman, and that was my next clue. After looking up his name, it turns out there are a collection of Ferrari and Maserati dealers in the Netherlands using that name. The owner is called Federico Kroijmans and owns a large collection of car dealers. Kroijmans Automotive was, at one point, the sole importer for Ferrari, Aston Martin, Cadillac,
insane. Those
and
cars are
Corvette
beautiful,
in the
man.
Netherlands. And I say one point as this company got into some financial difficulties and went into administration with reported debts of over $500 million. He's also famous for his $20 million Ferrari collection, including a couple of 250s, an Enzo and an F50. But more importantly to this story, Schumacher's 1999 Ferrari Formula One car. And unfortunately, that all got sold after the company went bust. Federico, or Fritz for short, had bought it from Ferrari themselves in 2001, after forming a good relationship because of the sheer number of cars that he's bought from Ferrari. Ferrari sold quite a few F1 cars to special clients, all through a program called Corsa Clienti, which translates to customer races. And this is very clever and profitable for Ferrari. Ferrari selects their most exclusive and therefore rich clients and allows them to purchase ex-F1 cars. Then these drivers can rock up to a circuit to drive their car while Ferrari deals with everything else. The mechanics, fuel, tyres, repairs, everything, all dealt with by Ferrari. And our friend Fritz was a member of this very exclusive club. When I say exclusive, I mean it. The cars go for between £2 and £10 million, all depending on their history and the number of races the car has won. In addition, Ferrari also charge a yearly sum for running the cars, and that won't be cheap. And the thing about Corsa Clienti is that you don't even get to keep the car. Ferrari keep it in their factory, so you can't even put it in your garage and show it off to your mates. Another interesting aside is that Ferrari allow the buyers to place an order for a car straight after the season it raced in. To stop the other F1 teams getting their eyes on their secrets, they don't give the car to the clients until 2 years has passed. They don't even allow the client to drive the car, so you have to front the tens of millions of pounds for the car and then wait 2 years. After looking up Fritz in some racing records, it turns out that he ran his car in a series for ex-F1 cars in the US. And for one of those rounds, Fritz was racing in the Monterey Historic at the famous Laguna Seca track. Laguna Seca is a track I've always wanted to drive. It has one of the coolest corners, the corkscrew, which is a sweeping chicane with a massive drop in the middle. It looks awesome. Hopefully one day I'll get to drive there. Anyway, during this race, it's rumoured that Fritz lost control on the warm-up lap, which can be an easy thing to do, especially for an amateur driver. And I'm guessing he was trying to warm his tyres.
Yeah, the tyres were cold.
This is the only footage of that race that I could find. And there isn't anything showing the incident. So it is hard to see what caused this unusual crash. But we can try and figure out what was the most likely. Outside of F1, on a warm-up lap, you're normally following a pace car. So if you do have a crash, it's likely at a lower speed, which means that the car splitting in two doesn't really make sense. You would expect that to happen in an absolutely monumental crash. But then I found a post on a forum with someone who was actually there. And he said, I was sitting under a tree at the exit of turn 6 and saw the whole thing. He wasn't going that fast. He got on the throttle too early and spun to the inside and hit the right front on the inside tyre wall.
Okay.
It wasn't that hard of a hit. Now please bear in mind there is almost no other evidence to back this up, so we do need to take it with a pinch of salt. But to me, it kind of does add up. Turn 6 at Laguna Seca, often called the kink, is a fast left. Likely third or fourth gear in a car like this.
Okay.
There is a big dip right on the apex there, and that's a recipe for upsetting the car and then spitting you into the barrier. You can overload the tyres or put a lot of load through the suspension, meaning that you have less grip than you're predicting.
Okay.
Then you're getting on the throttle on the way out of the corner, and it's quite easy to spin the car. And having driven cars very similar to this, you have to be so careful on the throttle, as these cars only weigh about 570 kilograms and have over 700 horsepower.
Light and fast.
If you run with this idea,
wow,
the driver gets on the throttle, they hit the bump, and that upsets the car. And then it spits them into the inside barrier. If all this happened at low speed, then why is the car split in half, with the driver's legs sticking out?
Right.
Interestingly, this is the same spec car that Michael Schumacher broke his leg in after crashing at Silverstone. However, the crash was very different. Michael had a brake failure at the end of the very fast Hanger Straight, so he was going much faster. But it is surprising that Fritz had a crash that was big enough to rip off the front end of the car, not big enough to sustain more serious injuries. The spectator watching also said he was able to get himself out of the car and limp around. He's tall and a bit overweight, so I wonder if they modified the monocoque to fit him. It was a clean brake at the bulkhead where the steering wheel attaches. And that's actually a very interesting point. Not everyone is F1 driver small, so it's common that normal people can't fit into F1 cars. And so Ferrari may have modified the monocoque or tub. With taller people, myself included, there's often not a lot of space around your knees as you're lying in the tub. Or the driver might sit a little bit higher, so their helmet's getting a little bit closer to the roll hub. And that isn't all that safe. Unsurprisingly, after the crash, Ferrari mechanics were there in an instant to cover the car and take it away. So it could be possible that the car had been modified to help Fritz be more comfortable when driving. And it makes some sense why there was such a clean failure point. Just look at this image.
Yeah, I know.
The car is clean
looks like it was just
two,
cut
likely
and
right where the
sat in
tub
it.
would be glued or bonded together. And of course, the bonding glue that they use is incredibly strong. But of course, not as strong as the carbon itself. And this could explain the clean break. Still, Fritz was extremely lucky to walk away from this. If you enjoyed this video, check out these two just down here, and I'll see you.
Wow. Interesting. That's just, what are the odds? You know, what are the odds that a break would happen like that clean, and he looked like he just had a bump knee, and that's it? Like no other injuries? It's like, how? I don't understand. I don't understand the physics behind like how like he didn't get injured any worse. I understand how it broke so cleanly because they had to modify it, probably cut it open, and they glued, like you said, glued where it was. But still, holy smokes, that was insane. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching. Stay safe, and don't forget to wash your hands. Bye.